Hi, so today's video is sort of going to be about something that I touched on before, which is anxiety, but it's going to go a bit more in detail today because my sister Gail found a link on the internet and it's called 7 things people with anxiety want their loved ones to know. And I thought it'd be really useful to talk about this link because I've read it and a lot of what they've said on the link makes sense. So this video is sort of going to be a bit of me just reading off the website and then sort of explaining it. And if you want more details about it, you can search for yourself. But I really think, especially people with anxiety, or people who have got loved ones that are suffering from it, will really find it really useful. So the first one, it's called "It Doesn't Have to Do with You." It's saying that it can be pretty exhausting worrying about everything we can possibly have done wrong, or doing wrong, or could do wrong. We may want to sit and cry sometimes. We'll be uninterested in activities. We may snap at you even though you don't deserve it. We may even get nervous that you don't love us anymore, even if you've given no indication of this. We want you to know above all, and for me, that is very true because, it has nothing to do with the actual person, your loved ones or your friends. It's all about what's inside. Like, I can really relate to that one because even now when I've dealt with my anxiety, but it still flares up occasionally, I still, if I make a drink for somebody, I'm constantly going, oh, I've done it wrong, it's rubbish. I've done it completely wrong, it's horrible. Or like, have I done something wrong? Have I upset you? Do you not love me anymore? It's like that, and it's not anyone's fault or you haven't given an indication that something's wrong. It's just some part in us that makes us feel that way. So that is sort of a really big one for people with anxiety, is you constantly are worrying about if you've done something wrong to somebody, if you're doing a task or something wrong, or you worry what could go wrong. Like, you could worry, like, if I step out the door, you have this horrible feeling that something's awful's going to happen, so you don't step out that door. But then the more, when you have to, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So it really is exhausting for people with anxiety. And I've been there and still are today struggling with it, to have to constantly worry about that. So number 2 is never try to talk to us out of our emotions. You know how people say that, talking it all out really helps. And, that is part of what I did with cognitive behavioural therapy. But most of it was experiments, exposure, and, a lot of hands-on stuff, not a lot of talking. And that's what it is, when it is, it's trying, like it says here, there's a fine line between trying to help us and trying to talk us out of it. Never tell us that our worries don't exist or that we can get over it if we just stop thinking about it. All it does is make us feel like we're broken, that there's something wrong with us, even though our closest loved ones don't understand. And that is very true because, if, say, people are saying, there's nothing wrong, you're doing it fine, it's perfect, you don't think, well, it's me. I'm the problem. There's something wrong with me. I'm broken. It's obviously me, that I'm the only one that can't do this. There's something wrong with me. And as soon as you have that thought in your head, and especially with people that suffer from severe anxiety or any type of anxiety, that sort of, just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gets really bad. So in this case, sometimes there is a really thin line where trying to talk about your problems to people, or people trying to tell you that there's, you're doing everything right, can actually cause it to get worse. The third one is, part of us know that our fears aren't rational, but we can't shake the part that doesn't. We know that the embarrassing things we say and do aren't real. It isn't anyone else's fault. But the part of us where the anxiety lives, that's where it can stay feeding on us, popping out its head occasionally to remind us that it's still there. The part of it always reminds us, what if this time my worries are correct? And that's true, that's what I learned in cognitive behaviour therapy. You can't do it once, and you have to do it many, many, many times, so you sort of got evidence to prove that yours aren't correct. Like, I was absolutely petrified of leaving my bedroom when when I first had my anxiety. I wouldn't leave it, or if I did, it was for tiny amounts of time. The only place I ever felt safe was within my bedroom. So what I had to do was leave it for longer periods of time, step by step. I'm talking minimum steps. Even going downstairs for 15 minutes and coming back up. That was a huge, huge deal for me. So you do that, and, you have to do it many, many times, because if you do it once and nothing happens, but then you don't do it again, you then think, well, just because it happened that time doesn't mean it isn't going to happen the next time I do it. So then it gets bigger and bigger. So you sort of got to be careful on that level as well. Number 4 is, we are grateful for what we have and for you. Although anxious people are labelled as pessimists, and it is understandable that people see us that way, we're pretty talented at coming to the worst possible conclusions almost instantaneously, but that's not always who we are. In fact, many of us are optimistic between anxiety. We do love our life and we are grateful for what we have, but it's the anxiety that makes is that, I am very grateful for my family, my friends, and everything, and the group and people I've met and talked to. I'm very grateful, and I do, when I'm not a nervous wreck or worried, I do look on the bright side of life, I do really happy. But then when I am this nervous wreck, it's understandable why people see you as a pessimist, because you're always like, something's going to go wrong. It's something awful's going to happen. You always, when you are in that state of mind, you are sort of constantly on the lookout for something horrible to happen. So that's why people can get confused, like you're a pessimist. But really, when you're not in that state of mind, you can be very optimistic. So that's not often the case. So number 5 is, we know you can't always see things from our perspective, but we appreciate you trying. As someone who doesn't suffer from anxiety, we know you won't be able to fully understand. We know that we might sometimes sound crazy, and we're sure it can be frustrating to have to drop everything and calm us down. But every time you answer our fearful text with reassurance and kindness, or pull us into another room to ask us what we're worrying about, or are simply there, steady, supportive, without questioning the way we operate, we can't even express how much that means, because it's rare to find. And that is very, very true. It is very helpful. I was still in school, when I was suffering from severe anxiety, going through exams, and exams are a horrible time as it is, but then to have severe anxiety on top of that, I couldn't do it. And if it wasn't for my friends, Abby and Hannah, another friend who was amazing, who literally took me to my every exam. She walked with me to my exam, make sure I got there, then she'd go to her exam. And, she was amazing, and she was there constantly reassuring me that I could do it, that I'm all right, Any time that, my family reassures me that everything, I'm fine, I'm doing great, they've been really supportive, it does help, sort of squash the anxiety monster a little bit. So if, don't do it too much, because then you start thinking they're only doing it because they feel sorry for you. But every time you reassure somebody with anxiety, you are helping them beat it a little bit at a time. Number 6 is, we wish we could turn it off, but we can't. And that is very true, because though it might seem we don't want to focus on what could go wrong, we don't want to be negative or bring the mood down or nitpick about things that may seem so little to an outsider, we're not trying to get attention. We know how we sound sometimes, and we wish we could turn it off, but it's just a part of who we are. And that is true. People do see it as a bit of an attention seeking, going, oh my god, that person as such, you know, just trying to get attention, you know, pretending to be scared of doing this, pretending to be nervous, you know, she just wants attention. You know, I had a few of those people, especially with at school, you know, she's just faking it, she's just doing it for attention. When you're not, you know, you can't, it's absolutely horrible living in constant fear that something absolutely awful is going to happen to you. I mean, I used to have huge panic attacks, the idea of stepping out of my bedroom. I would cry my eyes out. You know, going outside seemed impossible. And, you know, it seems so silly, the idea of just walking out your front door or leaving your bedroom to get a drink. But the idea to me would send me into a huge panic attack. And, you know, some people do find it pathetic and some people think they're just doing it for attention. But, you know, you really can't turn it off, and it is a part of who you are. You know, I'm always going to have anxiety, but it's ways to cope with it so it doesn't take control of your life. That's sort of what you have to learn to deal with it. And then the last one is, it doesn't define us. We may have anxiety and it may be a part of who we are, but so are our passions, our quirks, our personalities. Anxiety is one of those countless parts. We still laugh, we still feel the wind in our hair, we still appreciate a steaming mug of coffee early in the morning or the sun on our skin in summer. And that's true, you know. We still appreciate stuff and do stuff that everybody else does. You know, it's just because you're anxious and you're scared, you know, it doesn't define who you are. It doesn't have to be your life. You know, you can, you know, people, you know, it happened to me, you know, when people found out that I was anxious, you know, they sort of cutting me out because they're like, oh, well, she's anxious, she won't do it. You know, she's got anxiety, there's no point, you know, inviting her to this, doing this and this. It's sort of when people find out, they sort of cut you out of your life, they just see you as this anxious person that, you know, they can't be bothered to deal with, they want to enjoy it, you know. But, you know, you can still really enjoy life and have an amazing life with anxiety. It just takes patience from people around you and understanding. That's all it takes, is some patience and you just got to understand that it's really hard to live in constant fear. But once, you know, every little step they take is a step to getting their life back. So I really hope this video and this website helps with people who've got anxiety, you know, getting a bit more of awareness out about that, and also for people who have, you know people with anxiety or have seen it, then hopefully this gives you a bit of an idea what it's really like to live with anxiety and maybe helps you understand them a bit more. So thank you very much.